Hey guys, and welcome to another installment of MMA JudgeCast. On this episode, we're going to go over the UFC Fight Night Lee versus Oliveira, and I'm going to give my reactions, recaps, and unofficial scorings of this past event. I'm only going to focus on some of the fights of the main card, just for the sake of, because it is a 6-hour long broadcast, and I don't want to make this podcast a 6-hour long cast as well. So I'm going to focus on just that. I'm going to give my scores, and then I'm going to compare it to the official judge scores and see why I put those numbers in, okay? So, start off with the main event. Kevin Lee versus Charles Oliveira. Lee is ranked 8 at that moment, and Charles was at 13. After a fight, obviously, you know, they always change. For judges, we shouldn't care about rankings or know that. That doesn't matter. We shouldn't even be looking at it. But for the general public that love to watch all that silliness, there you go. It does help to get to know the fighters and say, if you're doing the betting odds, that's where it's mostly stacks, and to also see who's closer to title contention. That's what rankings do for the most part. But as a judge, we shouldn't focus on that or who's the underdog or whatnot. It does kind of play perspective, but we need to be unbiased. For this one, Lee missed weight, so obviously he's gonna technically be the heavier, bigger opponent no matter what, because you know he didn't make weight, so he probably, who knows what his weight cut was. I was looking forward to this because Charles Oliveira is like no slouch, very dangerous dude, you know, hungry and ready to move up. He's been in the game for a while too. And then we have Kevin Lee, this young, prosperous fighter who is building up this huge hype train, especially after his last fight where he had this brutal knockout. It was like maybe 3 UFCs ago by just nasty head kick. So there's a lot of, you know, potential of this being a great, you know, main event where there was a stoppage. In the first round, so I was looking at my notes, I had him, Charles Oliveira, 10-9, and the reason why is there was a lot of good action on the feet. There was a lot of back and forth going on, but Oliveira, I think, was, you know, taking it a little bit better on him, or giving him the pressure. He was doing all this crazy unorthodox stuff like he usually does, and you know, there were some takedown attempts at the end, towards the second half, all the way at the end, and he takes a notch, you know. Then on the second round, Charles is landing still more decent shots here. He's giving hard shots. Kevin's returning hard shots, I'm sorry, and making Charles pay back, you know, for every little volume punch that he was throwing. Nonetheless, you know, Kevin does take the takedown at the end, but I saw it still like Charles was being more of the active fighter, even from his back. He had some crazy jiu-jitsu transitions, and this is where, for me, scoring plays a factor when it's on the ground. If you're just there holding on or whatnot, or you're not busy doing anything, I'm gonna give it to the other guy that's doing something. So even if you're on top, it doesn't matter much unless you're just playing defense up top because you're trying to avoid submission attempts back and forth. And that's what Charles was doing. He was giving all these submission attempts towards Kevin, putting him on the defense, even if he was on the top. Charles was on his back and he was going arm bars. He was doing heel hooks. He was transitioning to omoplatas, back to arm bars. He was doing all this stuff. He was always active, triangles. You saw it. His jiu-jitsu was active. And because of that, you know, I almost gave it to Charles, but the politics of it is still 10-9, just because Kevin was scoring these takedowns, and in the world of MMA right now, takedowns are still gold. They hold a lot of weight, apparently, and until, you know, the system gets more corrected and we start getting more credit to the jiu-jitsu fighters, I think, you know, the takedowns are still going to put more pressure on it because he's still controlling the fight. Even if he's playing defense, Kevin was still noticeably not allowing himself to be caught on a takedown I mean, not on a takedown, on a submission attempt, which in the jiu-jitsu world, I believe, depending on how great the attempt is, you get some kind of credit. Doesn't work that way in MMA, you know. But I would still hopefully want to give that more often to those fighters when they're pushing more on that on the submission attempts. My mind slips right now on what those jiu-jitsu calls are called when you're giving them credit for the submission attempt, but it's not a hard point. It's just like a differential. Then the third round, hard hits from Lee and another takedown attempt. But once he gets that takedown attempt, Kevin falls into guillotine into Charles Oliveira's guard and sinks it in nasty. Look deep. Kevin taps. However, controversy happens. Kevin still thinks, oh, I didn't tap, and he tries to keep going for the fight. But, buddy, you tapped. Own up to it. I know it's a tough pill to swallow. I mean, you're trying to make it look like maybe you're trying to transition, but the referee caught you. He said it, checked the tape. I mean, case closed. Everybody saw it. This is such a clear tap. It looked like a panic tap. So maybe it was just a natural reflex from practice. I don't know, but he tapped quick, and you know, in the end, we get a third round submission with the guillotine. 10-8, Charles Oliveira. He takes it anywhere from those 3 rounds. He won 2 out of 3 in my book. Going on to the next Conan main event, Damian Maia versus Gilbert Burns. This was possibly like maybe a passing of the torch. 2 great jiu-jitsu guys. That's what makes it exciting. We're not expecting like a huge stand-up war, you know, or a wrestling match. No, we're expecting like some solid scrambles or jiu-jitsu. And Damian Maia showed it. You know, they started off on the feet and they were kind of bouncing around in the first round. But, you know, you see Damian just quickly go for the clinch and looks like a snake around Gilbert Burns, where all of a sudden, you know, he's trying to take the back, but all of a sudden Gilbert Burns reverses, he gets up, you know, he gets out through the back door and just nails Damian Maia real hard on that first round, knocking him out. Well, not really knocking him out, but it was more like a TKO. Exciting fight. You know, my hat's off to Damian Maia for still being in the game, still contending. He was top 5 fighter, while as Gilbert Burns had a lot to gain on this one, where he was, I believe, ranked 12th in the system. So, you know, he has a lot to gain moving up in this ranking, and we'll see where that lands. I haven't really looked at any of the rankings because I don't really care too much about that. But, you know, Damian Maia was, I think, ranked 5th, and he was hoping to get back up there in title contention, considering that some of the other guys above him already got a title shot or about to get a title shot. But it was very interesting. I was very much looking forward to this. The knockout was kind of unexpected, but I'm not surprised that it would have happened anyway, at least on Gilbert's side more so than on Damian's side. I don't think Damian has that much knockout power compared to the other dude. But, man, it was a great, solid left hook, I believe, and that put him down. And then he just followed up with some ground and pound. You know, obviously, it was a 10-8 on Gilbert Burns on the first round by TKO. Then we have another short fight, which was the Renato Moicano versus Damir Hadzovic. That was another little lightweight up-and-coming fight, seeing where these guys would start picking it up. This one only lasted 1 round as well as a TKO. It went to Renato 10-8. There was a lot of, you know, back and forth going on and quick work coming from them. But, you know, next thing you know it, there was just a rear naked choke. Real quick, Renato comes, closes the distance, cinches up the back. I mean, Damir made a mistake, and Renato capitalized on it and took his back. I don't know what it was. It was like some weird fall from an attempt of a takedown. I don't know, but if you're gonna do such a mistake and you give your back up that quickly, you better know how to scramble out. And Damir didn't show it. and he had no choice but to tap. Then we go into the last fight, the only one that I think went to the decision from the main card, and I was very much interested in seeing this one, the light heavyweights, which was Johnny Walker, who's still ranked 10th. He dropped down a few in the rankings. There was a lot of big push on his hype before he fought Corey Anderson, that New York card, which was, I think, the one with Masvidal and Nate Diaz. He was supposed to be this, next big time fighter that they were building up to be something. But then his hype train got derailed by Corey Anderson, so I was interested to see how he'll come back from that. Considering he trains in the TriStar gym where JSP came from. Let's see where he comes, where his mental fortitude is. He's Brazilian as well, I believe. So see how he comes up. And a lot of his previous fights before Corey Anderson, I think only one went to the decision. He's all been usually knockouts and finishes. Same thing for Nikita, his opponent, who's ranked 12th as well, so their rankings are pretty close. And Nikita's another one that I believe has had only one decision in his fights as well. Everything else has been finishes when it's come to him and winning them. So I was very much interested on two guys that are still trying to build up their stock as fighters and whatnot. So the first round, lots of strong blows and attacks from both fighters, back and forth. And then I still give this to Nikita for his 2 takedown attempts, and he was just pressing more damage on Walker. So it wasn't a good first round for Walker at all. 10-9 going to Nikita Krylov. Then round 2 and 3, it was a lot of the same, whereas it was still all Nikita keeping the control, the pressure, the damage. And that's what we'll kind of look for. Walker did give a nice reversal at the end of the second round, but it wasn't enough. It was at the end of the last minute, and he tried to steal the round with some ground and pound flurries and stuff. But the last minute compared to the other 4 minutes, Nikita controlled it. He took Walker down both rounds at the end, second and third, and he just kept the pressure on him, kept controlling him. He played their game really well, and nobody was expecting, not even myself, that this was going to go all 3 rounds straight to a decision. The final decision was unanimous decision to Krylov. He had 30-27 by one judge, and the other 2 judges were 29-28. I personally gave it all to Nikita with a 30-27. Okay? So that's how my perspective was on all 3, where I scored them, even with the rounds that, the fights I had finishes, I still kept the scores or my impressions of those rounds, no matter if it was the 1 round short fights or the other ones. I was still impressed by all of them. I believe Gilbert Burns, by knocking out Nikita or giving him that TKO, overcame that round because he was losing it. And his will brought it back and took him out. I believe the other one was too short, too close to tell, which was the Demir one, giving up his back. Renato went for it, played his game, looked like a snake, and just cinched in that rear naked choke. And then the main event with Kevin Lee, that was, who knows what could have been, but it was going back and forth. I gave one to Charles, I gave one to Lee, and in the third round, I might have given it to Charles as well, but who knows? It ended in the first minute of that round, so Kevin Lee took the takedown and sunk in the choke. Or it could have gone to Kevin, who knows? There wasn't enough time to tell. It was literally within the first minute. So those are my impressions and reactions, my perspectives of giving my unofficial scores. Look forward to doing the next one. Stay safe. I know there's still this whole coronavirus thing going on, and we're all in quarantine. That's why I'm still like with the blank screen behind me. It's just a wall in the room. But hopefully in the next ones, we'll be going back to more real life. Things start calming down. So stay safe, everybody, and have a great one. Thank you.